This is the Rich Eisen Show.
You got to go higher register to get up there.
If they win this game,
touchdown, Hollywood Higgins!
This weekend against Tennessee,
Higher register.
At worst, they could finish 12-4.
And they win it. The Browns are 9-3.
The Rich Eisen Show. Today's guests. From NBC Sports, Peter King, Yahoo Sports columnist Pete Thamel, plus ESPN NFL analyst Damian Woody.
The Eagles, though, are dwindling in that department, and right now, as you and I are talking, Doug Peterson is meeting with the Philadelphia media after putting Jalen Hurts into the game for the Eagles, benching Carson Wentz finally against Green Bay. Hurts did not look lost at all. He actually provided the spark that's necessary. Earlier today on the radio, Doug Peterson said he still had not made a decision as to who would start against the Saints. What is going on there? And is Doug Peterson, Howie Roseman, is everybody in trouble there right now?
You know, I don't know. That's a good question. I wouldn't be surprised if Doug was in trouble. You know, it's a little bit sad if he is, because I think he's a good coach who, I think, in my opinion, the mistakes that he's made this year have been made because he's trying to make something positive happen. And the fact is that it's hard to make something positive happen when your quarterback and your offensive line are both terrible. And unfortunately, that is what he's dealing with this year. In my opinion, when you wake up on Monday morning and you don't commit to your quarterback, you're probably going to change your quarterback. In my opinion, too, I think it's a smart decision. And again, not that this means that Carson Wentz's Eagles' career is over, because I don't think it is. But I do think that after a while, especially in a voracious town like Philadelphia with the fans and the media, after a while, you've just got to, for kind of the mental health of your quarterback and your team, you got to try something else. That's what I would do if I were him, and I think he probably will do it.
We should, just like Major League Baseball, Pete, decided to expand their playoffs in COVID, just like the NHL and the NBA coming up with a different manner in which to gain the playoffs in their bubbles. They come up with a different one. The NFL has got a plan in case it's necessary to change their playoffs. The fact that college football is right here saying, yeah, we're just going to do the same thing, it, to me, is insane. Like, it's a different season. There are different ways in which somebody can win. I'd love to see Cincinnati do their thing. I'd love to see Coastal Carolina do their thing if they deserve it. And instead, they're just going to be on some bowl game that maybe I'll watch. I'll be honest. You know, that's what I'm saying, I guess. What do you say?
No, and that's a great point. College athletics, like, when you really drill down on it, like, is just some of the least nimble. Well, it starts with what? Like, if the NFL wants to make a change, well, it starts with what? Roger Goodell. Owners call Roger Goodell. Who do you call in college sports? You call Gene Smith, you call Barry Alvarez, there's nobody in charge. So it's hard for 6 separate entities with competing interests to all try and do something like this. And, you know, it's been funny because you talk to people about, like, changing the playoff. When's the earliest it could happen? Like, it's all the lame arguments are the same lame arguments they had against the playoff that I wrote about for, you know, a decade and a half before they finally changed to a playoff. Like, it's the same static institutional nonsense. And there's just so much bureaucracy and crap, quite frankly, in college athletics that prevents easy, obvious decisions from being made.
All the pants that you have, the khaki pants that you have, the total would be what? What's the total number of pants that you have, Steve? I don't ask this of normal people as a normal question.
Single digits.
Okay, certainly single digits. Okay.
I'm going to say 5. I think 5 is probably the answer.
All the same color? What do you got? Is it all the same color?
I got 4 that are this, like, the color I had last night. I got 4 that are like that. Okay. And I got 1 that's a slightly lighter shade.
Okay. How do you choose? How do you choose what's worthy of NBC Sports and MSNBC, or what's the choice process? Can you walk me through that?
Usually whatever is clean. But there seemed to be a reaction to the ones I wore last night seemed to get a reaction election week. I have no idea why, but they seem to. So I figured kind of last night I was talking to the NBC guys, and I was like, is there a wardrobe thing here? Do you want me to wear anything in particular? And they just said, no, just do what you did for the election. So I was like, okay, well, that takes the pressure off. I've got you covered there.
I mean, that would be like, to use the analogy that you will definitely get being a Patriot fan. It's kind of like seeing when Belichick shows up to a press conference in a full suit and tie. It's jarring. Like, wait a minute.
Right.
Does he actually wear a suit, like, ever? And then, so if you showed up in a suit, it would just be weird. I'll be honest with you.
See, I like that. If this means I've gotten myself off the hook for the rest of my life from really having to get dressed up, I'll take that.
Last one for you here. This would be, look, a career choice, but it would also be something greatly appreciated by me. Here on the Rich Eisen Show, we don't understand why in the playoff formats that you see of the teams on the screen that are division leaders are in one column, as you know, and then the wild card leaders are in another column, and then the teams on the outside looking in are in a third column. I don't know who came up with the phrase that's always used by everybody as "in the hunt." I don't understand why that every single network uses that, except for this show. We use the phrase "sniffing it." Okay. That the it being the playoffs. They're sniffing it. If you could drop, if you do this again on Sunday Night Football, the phrase "sniffing it" instead of "in the hunt" or "on the outside looking in," that would mean the world to me. And I guess that means I'm a shell of a man. But would you consider it, Steve, to do that?
Let me see what I can do. Let me see if I can get that into my muscle memory for next week,
okay,
or sometime in the next couple of weeks.
That's
I like doing favors, Rich.
Okay, Steve, that's not a no. Right, Chris, we didn't hear a no. We didn't say
not a no.
That's not a no.
Not a no.
We'll say, okay, so I will be on the edge of my seat as you break down these big boards like they are on election night to hear the words "sniffing it" for teams that are on the outside looking in. Like the Arizona Cardinals right now, they're sniffing it. At this hour, they're sniffing it. That's all I need to hear. That's it.
I'm gonna, it's one of those things too. I want to run it by a few people to make sure there's not a meeting there that's gonna get me in trouble.
I'm in my 25th year of broadcasting of forgiveness rather than permission, and I'm telling you, you're in good shape, Steve. You're in good shape. So just give it a whirl. That's basically what I'm saying.
All right, I'll think about that one.
If you sit here and say, hey, we got the third overall pick, but still come to a place that has been so dysfunctional over the last few years anyway. Or you could say, we've got Trevor Lawrence, we've got all these draft choices, it's the New York media market, let's go. So who do you think would be the best coach to bring in to coach Trevor Lawrence if the Jets do actually complete the feat over the next 4 weeks? Damian.
Rich, that's an awfully tough one because there's a lot of candidates out there. I mean, we've heard, Eric Bieniemy, Robert Saleh. I don't know if I want to mispronounce his name, but the defensive coordinator with the 49ers.
Yes, Saleh. Mm-hmm.
Saleh. The OC from the Carolina Panthers, his name is hot. We've heard rumors now today about maybe Bill Cowher. I mean, there's a lot of different flavors of coaches that are going to be available for the Jets. I tend to believe, Rich, this team needs a CEO type of coach. They need a coach that's going to repair the reputation of this franchise, because right now the New York Jets are a laughingstock. They're the butt of every jokes around the National Football League. They need a guy that's going to bring credibility, that's going to instill culture, that's going to be able to work well with Joe Douglas. For me, I don't know if I want a hot coordinator. I need somebody who's going to be that CEO guy that can repair this reputation.
And you're a perfect guy to ask this question to, because again, you have played 10 games. You've won 10 games. Coastal Carolina is the only other program that is currently 10-0 as we're sitting here right now. And so you have gone through the most abnormal of seasons with the most, what looks like, just looking at a schedule and seeing it, the most normal looking schedule you can possibly have, right?
Yeah.
But so because it is an abnormal season, though,
Sure.
the concept of maybe adding more teams, changing the playoff system the way that Major League Baseball did, the way that NBA and the NHL bubbled up but did have a different construct and how people could qualify for the playoffs. What about the idea that maybe if it is brought about because of the way everything is going with the virus, adding more teams? Would you have an issue with that as somebody who has played as much as you have?
No, I don't think that ever was really a concern of mine. If they had decided to expand the field because of the uniqueness of the season and some teams not being able to, play as many games, I was okay with that. I think what for me was a bit of a stumbling block is what I kind of addressed in your question relative to, 10 or 11 games versus 5 or 6 games. But it seems like the committee has already addressed that, and that's not an issue with them. And that's fine. That's their call. I don't make those decisions. I got to coach a football team. But right. I think that, from expansion and if they wanted to do those things, I never really had an issue with that.
You've been there longer than many coaches in the history of Notre Dame football.
I have a plaque. They gave me a plaque at 10 years.
Is that what you get for 10 years?
I did. It's actually it's sitting on my desk. It's a paperweight. Listen, not a lot of people get these paperweights, Rich.
No. I would think that's something you hang on the wall. I mean. Well,
it could.
What do you get for 12 years? Do you get something for 12 years?
I hope I make it to 12.
Oh, stop.
Listen, I try to get through the year. This is a year-to-year gig here at Notre Dame. If you didn't know that.
Oh, come on. You're doing very. Let's put it this way. You're doing very well. You're doing very well. You've got a passionate fan base, including my sound engineer from New Jersey, who claims your school. Because I guess he couldn't claim Rutgers, right? You didn't go to Notre Dame, right?
My sister and my nephew went there. Come on.
All right.
I saw Montana play. I'm a Notre Dame fan.
But
PK knows.
Do you realize, though, Coach, do you know how long Newt Rockne was there? Do you know that?
I think he was 13.
13, yeah.
13, yeah.
Yes, and so that's the longest tenured coach. You're closing in. I'm
closing
cool.
in. Hopefully I can make it a couple more years.
Oh, gosh. But, I mean, do you want to stay? I mean,
this is
okay.
For me, having, seen clearly, the development of this program and over the years to get it to where it is, I want to continue to, bring this program to the consistency, of playing for championships and be part of the discussion every year. When it comes to college football, I want Notre Dame to be part of that, and I want to be that guy that continues to do that.
Well, let's talk about the journey. I love journeys. I love stories, and yours is fascinating to me. From Idaho, and Jim Harbaugh knocked on your door for Stanford. Is that the way this kind of started for you, Taysom?
Yeah. Look, when I was coming out of high school, I really narrowed it down to 2 schools, and it was Stanford and BYU.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, I ended up, signing to play for Stanford. I really wanted to play for Jim. I felt like he had a great idea of how he was going to use me and what my skill set was. And, he obviously went to the Niners while I was in the mission field, and a few things changed. And so I ended up going to BYU, and I loved my time there. But yeah, I really enjoyed my time getting to know Coach Harbaugh, and was obviously excited about playing for him initially.
So where'd you go on your mission? What was that?
I was in Sydney, Australia. So graduated in 2009, and then I was in Australia from 2010 through 2011.
And then you came and you went to BYU. Are you aware, because we had Sean Payton on the other day when he first laid eyes on you, Taysom, are you aware that preseason game in 2017 with the Packers where you were performing, that you were part of a cut-up tape for Max McCaffrey that he was keeping an eye on? He saw you. Were you aware that your preseason performance, in a way, led to all of this, Taysom?
Yeah, I was. I had a conversation with Coach when he first claimed me, and he told me the story. I was actually with Max. Max was on the phone with Coach because Coach was trying to get him to come down as a practice squad spot, and he shared the story with me as he was watching Max, and then he realized and started asking who's this guy that keeps throwing him the ball, and as you alluded to, the rest has been history.
I'd like to bring up one thing that we talked about the last time here on the new audience for the show here on Peacock is you rocking a St. Louis Cardinals baseball hat to a World Series game at Wrigley Field. And how did that go for you, John, that night?
Well, it was a controversial statement for some people. I didn't really mean anything by it other than I certainly wasn't going to wear a Cubs hat. I needed a hat.
Yes.
And I wasn't going to wear an Indians. I mean, what hat? I explained it to quite a few Cubs fans on the day who, when, like most things, it's easy to get your dander up when you're screaming anonymously on the radio or in a comment section. But when you speak to somebody in person, you generally, the cooler heads prevail. So in person, when I spoke to people, it was, well, of course you're going to wear. You're a Cardinal fan. That's fine. We're very happy for you. With the exception of one very particular Cubs fan who took my hat off and threw it over the wall into the alley of the bar that we were all in. And that Cubs fan was Bill Murray.
Okay. Now then, when did you realize it was Bill Murray? Did you have like a flash of indignity and like
no.
This fisticuffs coming?
I was very aware
okay.
that Billy was there because I was. It was after Game 5, which they won, and we were myself, Joel Murray, who was a co-star on Mad Men with me and a very good friend of mine, as well as the Murray clan runs pretty deep. Although they did lose their oldest brother this year, rest in peace. They run about 6 or 7 siblings in that family. There's a Brian Doyle.
Yes.
There's a Joel. There's several Murrays. Chad Michael. I'm not sure if he's related.
Great reference, John.
That's great. Yeah.
So I believe one of their sisters was there that night. It was a party. It was very exciting. Chris Chelios was there. Eddie Vedder was there.
Damn.
Chicago royalty was out in force that night, and I was there with one of my managers who's from the South Side Chicago, another friend of mine who flew in to see the game, and so it was a very celebratory evening, and I was wearing my hat, and people were singing and karaokeing and dancing. We're all in sort of the back outside space of a bar right near Wrigley, and Billy, who I had met on several occasions, and I wouldn't say that I know well, but I definitely know enough to say hi, said hi in a sort of a jubilant, dancing, excited way, and at the same time said, "Get this goddamn hat off your head," and plucked it off the top of my head and kind of reverse tossed it over the wall into the alley. And I watched it sort of sail into the night, and I thought, well, I guess I'll never see that again. And I followed it down, and I looked to the left on the wall that he had thrown it over, and there was a door to the alley. So I just opened the door, and I took 3 steps out and picked my hat up off the ground and put it back on my head and walked back into the party. Now,
that's fandom, sir. Yes.
The end of the story is even better because up to maybe a year or so later, and now this whole story has been printed in the Chicago Tribune.
Yes.
John Hamm is punking the Cubs by wearing a hat from the Cardinals. It's from none of this I knew. I just wore the hat because I thought it was cool. I got it on a photo shoot. So I'm hosting an event for the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Illinois, based in Chicago. Now, I'm not from Illinois. I'm from St. Louis, but there's a friendly rivalry, yada, yada. Here we are. So part of the thing is a live auction. And so one of the things was I said I would auction off the hat that I wore to the World Series. You can blow it up like the Steve Bartman ball. You can run it over with a truck. You can give it to your friend from St. Louis. Whatever you want to do, it's all for the kids. I'm very happy to do it. And I think it sold for like $5,000 or $6,000. So nice. Somebody had in the audience had a real grudge against that hat, or is wearing it today.
What is it like to have Jason Witten as a teammate at this part of your life and career? I mean, a GOAT. I mean, that's a first ballot HOFer that is lining up with you and in your room. What has he been like to be around with you, for you?
It's been an incredible experience. Like I always tell everyone, I've never met someone that's so intense about the smallest details of the game. And just seeing how he knows, like, everything that everyone is doing on the offense. And it's not just like, from him, it's like I'm learning, like, okay, I can't just learn my position or learn my responsibility. I need to learn where I fit in the big picture and how all these little details, one, false step or one, inch can make the difference in a play. And just seeing how passionate he is about that and how that can turn into, just having that advantage when you go out there. So you can just, with a guy that doesn't even have, like, the freakish athleticism, can literally, like, be the best in the league for almost 2 decades. So it's just like a tribute to, just him. And, and he's also super funny too, and just brings like a light personality. He knows when to be demanding, when to be aggressive, and also when to be lighthearted. So it's just honestly amazing.
So what games, what guys were you checking out? I imagine Justin Jefferson has to be one of the receivers that you talked about, since he was one of the receivers you were talking about in your previous grind assignment earlier on this year. And that kid is doing stuff that we haven't seen as a rookie since Randy Moss in that uniform.
No, he's an amazing wide receiver. He's really handled the pandemic. He's the guy that started the season, or training. The reason why he was not active those first couple games is because he was in the COVID protocol. Missed a lot of practice to start. So he was at such a disadvantage. And if you look at the star power that was from the draft, I mean, he was a receiver in the first round he very seldom talked about. So his ability to be explosive, he's very competitive. He's better off 1-1 in the NFL than people gave him credit. And what he did in the slot in college, people didn't think he could do that in the slot or outside in the NFL, and he's proven a lot of people wrong. So anytime you're talking wide receivers, you should really be talking about Justin Jefferson. But we had a couple guys. We had a guy, Keenan Allen. We had him mic'd up. We had Adam Thielen mic'd up in the same game. And we had my man up there in Green Bay mic'd up. So
Adams.
We had Keenan Allen didn't turn out to be mic'd up for any. I mean, we can't broadcast what he was saying because there was a lot of cuss words and everything.
I'm sure he wasn't
with
happy.
A rookie quarterback going against Belichick. So that was not fun. But the other wide receivers, it was great insight talking to Ahmad about them.
Okay, so let's get a little bit deeper into the Vikings, who are the 6th seed all of a sudden. They have battled back to 500, and you do have somebody as talented as Jefferson with Thielen. And the whole concept of they're going to miss Stephon Diggs is now, I think, a little bit out the window. And this team with Cook running the football, how real do you think the Vikings are right now, Chris?
Well, the thing about it is you like their coach. I mean, he has that grittiness that is going to rub off on the team. I mean, they lost a lot of star power with the salary cap and free agency. We thought that they might be retooling a little bit, but they've put themselves, even after a horrendous start, they have put themselves right on the verge. They are not a dominant defense. And Dalvin Cook, if you didn't know about him, you should, because when he's healthy, he's one of the best running backs that we have in the league. And when he's not healthy, it's hard for me to even watch my team play. So they are legitimate. I still have concerns, which I've had the previous 3 years about that offensive line. And you got to be concerned, especially in year number 1 with that very, very young secondary.
What was it like, however, this year of playing with no fans in the stands, though? I mean, I cannot imagine how weird that must have been to start things out. Certainly, you've been playing in front of, even when you were playing pony ball, maybe in front of your family. What was that like for you, Luke?
I played at a small school, in Missouri called Missouri State. So it was like playing at Missouri State, but we didn't get a lot of fans. But, it's a lot different, man. Obviously New York's a different place right now. You can't enjoy the city. Can't go out to dinner. On the road, we were pretty much locked down in our hotels. We played in Buffalo, which was different, playing at a AAA stadium. It was a grind, man, but 2020's been a grind for everybody, and we fought our way through it, and fell short, on the ultimate goal of winning number 28, but it was different, man. We missed the fans. They make baseball what it is, and hopefully, with spring training right around the corner, we can get things rolling back to normal.
How are you, Kyle?
Rich, electric moment in the Brandt household a few days ago.
How
I have
so?
to tell you,
How so?
we've kind of worn out our shows and our entertainment and everything. We've watched so many this year, so we're
Yes.
going back to things that we missed.
Yes.
And we found this show that we're loving, and it's called I'm Sorry.
Oh.
And I'd never seen the show, and we're watching it, and we're liking it. There's this fantastic female lead, and it's all based in
Andrew
L.A., and we
Savage.
like it.
Yep.
Middle of one of the episodes, I'm in the kitchen. My wife Brooke's on the couch. She starts yelling, come here, get in here, get in here. I'm like,
Yes.
what? I look up on the screen, and I see Eisen staring back at me.
Yes.
They're at your house. You're giving away goldfish.
Yes.
Now, I thought I knew about it. I saw you in Billions. I've seen you a bunch of things. I didn't know you were in I'm Sorry, and I want to say to you, I'm sorry. I wish I would have been there. That looked like a blast.
It was a total blast, Kyle. And you don't have to apologize for anything, because I like just sneaking up on people.
Yeah.
I like sneaking up on people. And Andrea Savage, who's dynamite. I mean, she is the creator and writer, and she directed the episode that I was in. She's just brilliant. Her daughter and my son go to the school, same school together.
Oh,
so,
okay.
And her husband, Jeremy's like, hey, there's a role that you might be perfect for. Would you be up for it? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Absolutely. Where I play a clueless dad whose kid is having a birthday party, and the giveaway is a goldfish, which only serves to create a problem in a household for a parent, because the goldfish inevitably will die, and you now have to talk about death with your child. And I thought that was a brilliant construct. And I'll be honest with you, Kyle, the one scene you're referring to is the only scene I'm in it, and I was disappointed when I got the script that I was only in one scene, and then I saw how I'm referenced the rest of the show with a curse word associated with my name, and I'm like, that actually might be better.
Yeah, but I saw an association with your name, and the construct of that show that's great is that there's kid time and parenting, but then there's the way that the adults talk when the kids aren't around. And there's a moment in which her husband, who is the drummer from The Wonders, walks away from talking to you and is palpably titillated from talking to you. And she says something about, put away your Rich Eisen, and then rhymes with loner. And I was like, wow, that sounds like a fantasy team name. That was an amazing legacy and a phrase to follow you around. So congratulations.
Thank you. I'm going to go deeper down this wormhole with you, because I gave Andrea an idea that she never put into a show, but the idea was born out of, she was in the room and I was in the room in the same audience at my son's and her daughter's school, and they were in the same school production, same play. And before the production started, the teachers who were in charge of the production thanked all the parents who were helping out throughout the entire production, make sure that it could happen. And she said she didn't want to miss any of the parents' names. So if all the parents who were involved in putting the production together could just stand up so we can give everyone a round of applause. And that happened. And my idea was, what if I was one of the parents who absolutely had nothing to do with the production, but stood up in that moment to accept applause for being part of it when everyone knew I wasn't? I wanted to be that guy. And create the sort of problem of, do you call that person out? How do you call that person out? How do you shame that person who has no shame to accept that in front of the entire parent population? I think I would love that. That's the next role I would want to play.
Rich, I don't know if it is the Jet fan in you, or maybe the coffee mug that's to your right now, but that is a very Larry Davidian storyline right there, in which Larry would completely call BS on the parent who stands for the applause that they didn't.
Exactly. Like, would you call that person out? Like, what would you do? Like, hey, I know for a fact you had nothing to do with this. Sit down.
It reminds me of when Larry and Cheryl go out to dinner with a couple that they're friends with, and afterwards, when the other person picks up the check, they thank the gentleman that picks up the check, and then the wife says, "Don't you want to thank me too?"
That's
and
right.
Larry's like, "Why? You don't work. Why would I thank you?" And it becomes this terribly awkward thing that she thinks she deserves the thanks, which maybe she does, but Larry wasn't giving it to her. It's a brilliant
my gosh. My dad, may he rest in peace, loved that episode. Absolutely.
Great episode. Can't help it.
Oh, God, he loved all that. Would you say that the 21st century version, and I know that he's been playing most of his football in the 20th century, if not obviously all of it, but Josh Allen is this generation's version of Big Ben. What do you think about that idea?
I like it. I like the stature. I like the arm. When I was coming off watching that Bills game the next morning, which I think was the best game of Josh Allen's professional career.
I agree with that.
I came away saying, this guy looks like 6'5" Aaron Rodgers. Like, he looks like a steely, cold-blooded sniper. And I'm there with you on the Roethlisberger, but honestly, even better than Big Ben. Even when in Ben's early young career winning the Super Bowl, I think Josh Allen looked more talented and a better runner. Like, he looked the other night like a top 3 guy. Because the thing is always with him, it's just you need some poise. I always compare him to Johnny Knoxville. Like, he's just crazy sometimes. He pulls laterals out of his backside and he throws it to people who aren't receivers. And it's like he gets a little sugar high sometimes. Not in that game. I mean, his pulse did not bounce the entire time. And these are the games on national television now, the games that count. And Josh Allen, over the next month, is going to be one of the few faces of the league. He's on national TV a bunch, including this Sunday night against the Steelers team that can't catch a pass, can't make a tackle. Like, there's blood on the water in Pittsburgh. They went from 11-0 to, like, sound the alarm right now.
All right, Kenny, what's going on with Harden? What do you know? What can you tell me? What do you think's going on with him?
From outside looking in, just like everyone else. I've met James, on occasion. I don't know him well.
Okay.
And but just outside looking in, he's a guy who's like looking at his career. If I was him, this is what I'd be thinking: am I going to win a championship? Like, seriously, if I'm going to win a championship being here in Houston, are they putting the right pieces around me? We changed. I was really comfortable with the D'Antoni system. He put the ball in my hand, and they were making moves. Like, we bring in Westbrook, like I said, it don't work, but, they're making moves. But am I going to win a championship here with this new regime? That would be my question, and I think that's his question. I don't know if he wants to be out of Houston, but I know he wants to be out of a situation that doesn't want to be. If I was him, that's not going to win a championship. I only got about 3 or 4 more years of this, like, where I could carry a team, like, where I'm carrying a team pretty much basically by myself, where I could get you to the semifinals of the West. After that, I'm not able to do it. So if I'm James Harden, that's what I'm saying right now.
And if you're James Harden, what do you think, Kenny? I mean, you know the Houston organization well. Do you think that's the...
I don't know this one well.
Okay.
But I would say you'd have to sit me down and convince me that what we're doing or going to do is going to have me an opportunity to be in the Western Conference Finals the next 3 years. Because the way I'm looking at it, the Clippers and the Lakers are ahead of them. We were ahead of them for 2 years when Chris Paul was here, even though, it didn't work out. But we were there. And we're not there anymore.
So I guess this would also not lend much credence to whatever reporting that's out there that Harden was working out with John Wall and kind of gave a green light to Houston to swap Wall for Westbrook if he's thinking that this isn't the right mix. Do you think it could be the right mix?
I think, a healthy John Wall, but I haven't seen John Wall play basketball in 2 years. Like, literally, I haven't seen him. He's a great player when 2 years ago. He was, top 5 point guard in basketball. I haven't seen him play basketball in 2 years, so I have no idea. You can work out with a guy all you want, but until you see him play in a real NBA game, I could bring you 5 guys right now that's not in the NBA, Rich, and we say, hey, let's go work out. You'd be like, why is this guy not in the league? Like, well, you haven't seen him play. You see him work out. It's a big difference.
Right, and then the word is that Harden was also working out with Durant and Kyrie here and thought maybe this would be good to do professionally, word that he might go
I think he always works out. He works out at a gym. I know about this guy named Chris Brickley, who's a big trainer in New York. They work out that gym all the time. That's not unusual. There's a guy in L.A. now. He works with Sacramento. He runs a gym out here. Those guys work out those gyms all the time, and they play with each other. That's not unusual. If you're in the basketball community, that James Harden and Kevin Durant and Kyrie were in the same gym at the same time. It's not unusual if you know the circuit.
No, sure. And it's not unusual anymore for guys to be working out and saying, you know what, this is fun. Let's do it professionally, and then strike a deal.
I mean, but Carmelo's in that gym, and all of this, the Siakam is in that gym in L.A. Like, all of those guys work out together. There's, like, even when I was playing, there's like 5 gyms around the country that everybody used to go to. Like, when you're in that town, you're going to be like, let me get a run in. Let me get a run in. But so it's not unusual. So I wouldn't read into the whole he's working out with Kyrie, and I wouldn't read into that, honestly. Mm-hmm. But I would read into the fact that this guy might not feel he can win a championship any longer in Houston. Mm. And you look at their roster, you go, they're not better than 5 teams right now. Are they better than Denver right now? Not necessarily. Are they better than Portland? Not necessarily. Are they better than the Lakers? No. Are they better than Clippers? No. Like, you know that. So I can understand the concern.
Okay, so I wake up. Knock on wood if you're with
congrats.
Me. Thank goodness, right? I wake up.
Thank God for that.
And I do what I do every day here in the world of having to sit in a chair like this and know what's going on in the sports world best I can. I reach for my phone and I look at Twitter. Okay? And then I notice that the name Bob Costas is trending, and you could knock me over with a feather. Then when I find out why Bob is trending, that feather could knock me through to the center of the universe. Is that there's somebody on Twitter, and it could be Bob, @real_Bob Costas. Then you read the Twitter bio, and you begin to think something could be up because it says former NBC sports broadcaster, 21-time Emmy Award winner, 11-time Olympic host, president and sole member of the BCFC Bob Costas fan club. Doesn't sound like Bob.
No. But Bob has a unique sense of humor, so, you never know.
Yeah, doesn't sound like Bob. Sure enough, we find out it's not Bob. None other than his son, Keith, is on Twitter. Then his son, Keith Olbermann's on Twitter saying it's not him. Many people who have ultimate respect in this business saying it is not him. So I wanted to make sure that we're all buttoned up, and inviting here on the Rich Eisen Show to discuss this very subject is none other than the real, actual, 100% authentic Bob Costas. How are you, Bob?
I'm good, Rich, and it's appropriate that I would be on with you because you have chided me now and then good-naturedly. Are you on Twitter yet? What would it take? What would have to happen before you were ever on Twitter? And late last night, and then again this morning when I woke up, dozens of texts, some claiming it must be real, some saying this can't be true. Yes. And one said, this is the best indication that hell has frozen over since the 04 Red Sox or the 2016 Cubs. But I am here to assure you and everybody else that the fires of hell are still very much blazing, because I am absolutely not on Twitter. They have taken the bogus account down. And I began thinking, what would I have to do before I ever deigned to be on Twitter? What, like binge watch The Real Housewives of Orange County? Hire Rudy Giuliani as my personal attorney? Make a return trip to Sochi just for the nostalgia of the Pink Eye episode? Star in a sequel to Basketball? Or just for you, Rich?
Yes, Bob.
Make a special trip to the NFL Combine. All those things will happen before I'm ever on Twitter.
I mean, a prequel to Basketball would be pretty epic.
Prequel. I like it.
Yeah, you know what? I have to admit that. If the Zucker brothers asked me to do a sequel, especially with Al Michaels at my side, to Basketball, it must be done. I owe it to the American public. Same thing if Lance Crowther and Chris Rock say, we're going back to the well with Pootie Tang. I'm there as well.
Sadate.
Wadate, my brother. Wadate.
How would you talked to the, I guess, front load, if you will, to the committee, that if you lose this game, that you should still be in the top 4 when there are others that may not have played the same competition or even the same number of games, Coach?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really obviously that's a tough question to answer in my position because I mean we feel like we're definitely one of the best 4 teams in the country, and there's nothing that's going to happen in that game next week for Clemson or Notre Dame that's going to change that, in my opinion. And that's based on data, and I don't think that it's almost like you got to have 120 hours to get a business degree and but yet, these people over here only need 60 hours to get a business degree. I think, anytime you step in between the lines in the game of football, there's a lot that can happen. A lot. I mean, heck, we in 2017 we lost to a 3-win or 4-win Syracuse team and still went to the playoffs. So anything can happen. Guys can get hurt. There's a lot, and so I think the fact that we're going to have 11 games. As well as the SEC teams. I mean, you look at Florida and Texas A&M and Alabama. I mean, these teams are going to have 11 games in this year. It's incredible. And, I think the Big Ten, I think, had the same opportunity, and they chose not to play. And I think the only reason they ended up playing is because of the leadership of the SEC and the ACC and the Big 12, and have demonstrated that we could do it and do it in a safe way. And it's been an unbelievably challenging season, that's for sure. But I think that the committee's going to have some tough questions to answer and things like that, regardless of what they do. And obviously, as coaches, we don't control any of that stuff. I do think that our team has played incredibly well. We had a double overtime loss at the number 2 team in the country now, Notre Dame. It was a great team and an unbelievable game. And again, no matter what happens for Notre Dame or Clemson, nothing changes in my mind as far as both of these teams being in the top 4.
As a Jet fan, how's Trevor? How's he doing? Is he okay?
Trevor's great.
Yeah?
He's awesome.
How's he looking?
He's
How's
awesome.
he looking?
Yeah, he's never been better. He's pretty special.
Yeah?
He's pretty special.
Hair's perfect, everything, yeah.
Loves to play.
Yeah?
Hair's perfect.
Okay.
Loves to practice.
Okay.
Yeah. Likes the grind, likes the grittiness of football.
Okay.
He's pretty special.
Is he at all thinking about the future? You guys have a conversation about what he's thinking about?
We've had lots of conversations. Well, yeah, he's thinking about the future. He's thinking about December the 19th.
Oh, I'm looking over the steering wheel, sir. I look over the steering wheel, sir. I look over the steering wheel.
Yeah, he is going to graduate. He is going to graduate on December the 17th.
Okay.
At 1:00 p.m. So
okay.
I'm excited about that for him as well. And he's getting married next spring.
Where's he registered?
So
Where's he registered? Where's he registered, Coach? Because I'd love to send something.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you still do that? You still register? I don't know. You're gonna get him some what's that stuff called? The fine china?
Yeah, no, a gravy boat.
Do people still get that?
He might need a gravy boat. I don't know. Certainly to fill it candlestick or something. Well,
yeah.
Sure
he needs a saucer and a coffee cup.
That's what I'm thinking about. Just because he is a fine piece of china himself, Coach, and there's a lot of conversation at the next level that he's looking at what's happening with a particular winless team and how dreadful they look and would be thinking about not going to them if they draft him. Would you say that there's anything to such a conversation?
We've not had any conversation about that, but regardless of who don't you have to be bad to get the number 1 pick? Isn't that the way it works at that level?
That's the deal at that level, yes, sir.
That's the deal. That's the way it works. So I mean, regardless, I don't think he's going to go to a team coming off a Super Bowl win. It's not like he can. Out of high school, he was able to pick to come to Clemson.
Yes, he was.
pick up from where Deshaun Watson left off. He doesn't really get that opportunity, regardless of what year he goes out. He kind of, it's just the way it is. But I'll tell you this: regardless of where he goes, he's going to win because he's a winner. That's what he does, and he's going to be just fine. And whoever gets him will quickly realize just how special he is.
Who would be your defensive player of the year right now? J.J. Watt pounded the table on Twitter, and rightfully so, for his brother T.J., and you've got number 99, who we're going to see try and track down Cam tonight for the Rams. Just two of them. Myles Garrett was in the mix, but he did miss a couple of weeks due to COVID-19. I'm wondering who you have looked at this year and thought that's the defensive player of the year, DeMarcus.
I go back into, I look at T.J. Watt and what he's done, and usually the MVPs are on teams that are winning.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter how productive you are, because I remember when I had 20 sacks, when I had 19 and a half sacks one year, it didn't matter, because also that when your team's winning, that goes into leadership, that goes into team camaraderie, it goes into a whole team thing, right? Whole team player. So with Aaron Donald, if I say that there was a single player between T.J. Watt and Aaron Donald who would win that, I would say Aaron Donald all day, right? But his team isn't doing as well as the Pittsburgh Steelers. So usually the last thing that I see is probably the last person that I pick. So let's just say that now, T.J. Watt, they're in the Super Bowl. And it's him and Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's not in the Super Bowl. But T.J. Watt is in the Super Bowl. So I'm probably going to pick T.J. Watt because his team went further. That means in my head that they had a better team, and so I would pick a T.J. Watt at the time when you're talking about MVP, if you're talking about all-around categories that I just talked about.
Yeah, through 16 weeks of a season, I guess. So if you're saying the Steelers have a better record than the Rams, that's who you're taking.
Yeah, that's who I'm taking because that's who I'm going to see in the postseason. And if we're going numbers for numbers, just like, hey, who's the better athlete? I would say Aaron Donald all day. Aaron Donald is the defensive MVP if we're just going off of that. But when you start talking about MVP, MVP means championships in my book. So I would say T.J. Watt.
I went to summer camp, Camp Loconda, Trails End Camp, both in New York and Pennsylvania, respectively. And they did have tons of British counselors, tons, who all taught us best they could about soccer, playing soccer. And I always remember, and I made this always my call of soccer highlights on SportsCenter. Whenever somebody just missed the goal, I would use the phrase that all the counselors used with me, which was unlucky.
Totally.
That's the word they would call you unlucky. And and I brought that to SportsCenter because that was straight from my summer camp experience.
Yeah, they're
the high black
so
socks.
Much of my concept of Britishisms comes from those counselors, and I now have a vivid memory of going like wide right and hearing unlucky.
Hard luck.
Yeah.
That's what they would tell me. Hard luck. And I'd never heard those phrases before, being from Staten Island, New York. Bamati, what do you think Pat Riley's first thought was when, I'm sure he didn't see it on Twitter or on his phone. Somebody had to tell him. I'll just throw that out there. That James Harden put Miami on one of his wish lists I want to go to play for. What do you think went through Riley's mind when he heard that?
Oh, immediately trying to figure out what way there is for it to happen, because Pat Riley does not look at the world in the same ways that we do. Like, I see the idea of trading assets away for James Harden and ask, how are you going to build this thing around James Harden? Is the only way to play ball with James Harden having the ball all the time and things that stagnate your offense, or whether that's the guy that you want around. Pat Riley is, I am Pat Riley. This is like, he's David Ruffin, right? Like, I'm David Ruffin and these are the Temptations. That's how Pat Riley sees the Heat. This is his team. And so, yeah, we bring James Harden in here, and he would do what it is that we do. Because not even with LeBron James did Pat Riley truly entertain the possibility that he is going to bend to what the player wants, right? They may take your input into account, but he's the guy who's in charge. So if you tell him one of the best 5 players in the NBA is available to be under his charge, oh, he'll try to find a way to, like, if he wants it,
he'll find a way to get this done because I don't think the market is going to be nearly as robust as James Harden would have expected.
Well, certainly not if the Rockets are doing what they should do, which is, okay, we've got 2 years of contractual control remaining. This player does not have a no-trade clause. However, the NBA gives you whatever trade clause you want when a superstar usually says, I don't want to be here. But that said, you know, they should look at Philadelphia and say, well, one of the names better be Embiid or Simmons. I don't want to hear about Tobias Harris. Or, well, Nets, one of the names better be Kyrie. I'm sure you're not going to be talking about Durant. But one of those names better pop up. And if you're Houston, what, the name is Hero, right? Or Adebayo? I mean, that better be the first name out of Pat Riley's mouth. Otherwise, enjoy playing with John Wall. Shouldn't that be there?
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
you
right?
can't give a play like you think. I've talked about this for a while. Like some of the superstar trades back in the day, like Charles Barkley got traded for Jeff Hornacek, Tim Perry, and Andrew Lang. And after that season, Andrew Lang left Philadelphia and went back to Phoenix. Right? You can't get away with making one of those trades anymore. Not after you get all of that for Paul George, for example. Not after the Pelicans got all of that for Anthony Davis. Like, you as a general manager can't go face your boss and come back with a terrible package for James Harden, right? And so I think he thought that he could squeeze himself into the one place he wanted to go just by stomping his feet. And the Rockets are like, nah, we're not going to do that. One thing to keep in mind with Harden, he was represented by Rob Pelinka, I think, when Rob Pelinka took the Lakers job. But the big thing is Harden's mom handles his affairs, if I'm not mistaken. I know he does not. I do not believe he has like an official quote unquote agent. I don't know anything about his mother or anybody that's around them. I don't want to question their savvy or anything like that.
Right.
But there's a value in a professional, you know? And so if he is trying to run his own strong arm campaign without the aid of someone who does this all the time, then this is going to be wonky.
Before I let you go, Tom Curran, you've been covering Bill Belichick every single day since he's arrived in New England. You've seen him. You've been around the block with him. So what do you think? That we know that he doesn't think that Cam deserves to be in there, and we know he probably has evaluated Stidham enough that we can understand and for real know that he's not evaluating Stidham in Week 17 when he starts them against the winless Jets. He's doing that specifically along with all the other guys that he'll throw out there from the practice squad. Make sure that the Jets don't get Trevor Lawrence. Your thoughts, Tom Curran, when it's all said and done, Week 17. How does that happen? That the Jets are one loss away. That the Jets are one loss away from clinching Trevor Lawrence, and the man standing in their way, or maybe being able to step out of the way. What do you think he does with that four-dimensional chessboard, Tom? What do you think?
That's a great Sophie's choice, isn't it? Because you can either go with, I really want to see this franchise go down with the ignominious fact that they have an 0-16 around their neck forever.
One. But
so that argues to hit the tape all the way through. Boy, that's a great question because I know he likes Gase too. Does he want to saddle Gase with that? But he's never I don't want to finish 7-9 either.
That's true.
So
that's
holy
true.
Crap!
But you
circle up after Christmas.
You kind of pull the foot off the gas pedal, which goes against every fiber of his being. But if you do you put the Jets at 1-15, and just maybe you don't see Trevor Lawrence twice a year, and the Jets don't get the best, most talented player potentially in the draft in the last some odd years. That's coming down the pike, Thomas.
Okay, I'm putting that onto a quick document Word so I can have that for a story to write later. Because I think it's a good
welcome.
talker right there.
That's a good talker.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.